Guys, I think getting in the game last Saturday, how did he get himself to that point? Was he ahead of maybe the schedule that you anticipated for him in 2022?
No, we had felt all along that based on when the injury happened and rehab, and he's been awesome. I mean, he literally is in the either weight room or training room probably 3 hours a day. He's worked really hard, so he's right on schedule with where we thought we would be, where we thought he would be. But obviously, the game circumstances helped with that too. But yeah, he's right on schedule and has handled it really well.
James, you're approaching your 100th career win. How have you just kind of seen Penn State grow as a program since you took over in 2014?
Well, obviously, you kind of put it into different categories, right? When we first got here, it was under very different times and very challenging times, and and then obviously we've had kind of a change. Obviously, as you guys know, from a leadership perspective at a university level and then an athletic department level. So there's been a ton of changes. Penn State's a place isn't used to a whole lot of changes like we've had in the last 10 years. But I'm looking forward to kind of the direction we're going and really what we have done. If you look at the entire picture, I'm pretty proud. Obviously, there's some things that we need to do better and I need to do better and all those things, but the overall body of work, I'm pretty proud of.
James, you had mentioned that Christian Driver is playing both ways now. What went into that decision? Is that something that you see sticking moving forward, or do you ultimately hope to find one spot for him?
Yeah, we recruited him with the idea that he could play offense or defense. We felt like during the recruiting process, the best spot for him was defensive back. Our plan was specifically safety, and we wanted to kind of train him like we did Zach Key, start him at corner, and then transition him to safety. We feel like that working on an island on the perimeter as a corner really gave Zach Key a lot of confidence when he went into safety, so we wanted to do the same thing. And he'd really done some good things, but as the year's gone on, he feels more comfortable at wide receiver. So came in and met with Taylor, came in and met with Terry, and then came in and met with me. And based on some depth and some injuries, we've kind of said, okay, towards the end of this year, we'll split time with you, help you get some work and get started at wide out. But we still need you to know what's going on defensively. So he's kind of splitting time during the week. But the plan is for moving forward that he'll be at wide receiver.
Hey James, Nicholas needs 199 yards for 1,000. How important is that, especially for a freshman?
It's not really something that we're focused on. We're focused on trying to find a way to beat Rutgers. If during that process the guys have the ability, whether it's Nicholas or any of the other guys, have the ability to reach or meet some individual goals, then that's great. But we're really just focused on beating, finding a way to beat Rutgers on the road in the Big Ten, and whatever comes with that as a byproduct is good.
James, this day and age, it's not uncommon to see programs bring in double-digit transfers. You all brought in three in the last offseason.
What was it?
Three. Those guys have all, contributed significantly.
Yep.
What goes into when dealing with a number that high or that low? Making sure that you hit more than this. It goes into like the evaluation and how have those guys been?
Yeah, I think again with us, we have tried to recruit guys that we know well is a big part of it, or have some strong connections to them at a time where it's hard. Things move fast. The other thing is we just have had some processes in place that have made it difficult, especially at mid-semester, which most of these happen. The turnaround in terms of getting guys into school and things like that have to happen fast, so there really needs to be a commitment from the top all the way down to do those types of things. But to that point, for us, it's to solve problems where you have some immediate holes that you have to fill. And then also what could factor into it is how many guys that you have go into the transfer portal that could create some challenges as well. So it's really kind of on both ends. That's why we're trying to have as many conversations now so there's no surprises. We would like We would like everybody to be as transparent as possible in both directions, so that everybody kind of can be prepared. This is also a small industry. We kind of all know each other. So it's amazing what you can find out too if you're willing to look and listen. Yeah, I think there's some guys that have shown some good things. Malik Mega's shown some good things. Trey Wallace has shown some good things. Liam has shown some good things. There's a number of those guys. Omari has shown some things, so there's some flashes. I don't know if there's one guy that's totally separated himself on a consistent basis. There's been guys that have done it at times, but not on a consistent basis. So we'll continue to give those guys opportunities, whether they're behind those guys and tapping like we've done most of the year, or if it's a rotation.
James,
What kind of value is Jonathan Sutherland providing for your linebacker room since he's switched over to that spot?
Yeah, linebackers, defensively, special teams. He's been phenomenal. He's been a multiple-year captain. Done things the right way since he's arrived on campus, both on and off the field. Academically, I think he's gotten a master's degree as well. He's done it all. He's done it all and done it the right way. I'm a big fan of Sutherland. I'm really proud of him.
James, a couple weeks ago when you were talking about the conversations in the building, you mentioned talking to Danny O'Brien about quarterback. He's someone that has been in his second year here. What has it been like working with him, and what has he brought in the position that he's in right now?
Yeah, it's been good. I think I have a lot of history with Danny. I recruited Danny out of high school. I'm close with Danny's high school coach. Danny was the ACC Rookie of the Year playing for me when I was the offensive coordinator. And then obviously I left, and there was a change at Maryland, and we stayed in touch kind of through that entire process. Then Danny had been playing in the CFL, and we stayed in touch, and he just kind of gotten to the point during his time in the CFL where he knew he wanted to get into coaching, and at some time he was going to have to make that decision. So we were able to bring him here, and he's been a real asset to the offensive coaches, and specifically Mike, working with the quarterbacks. We also obviously, because kind of how we grew up professionally, we kind of see things in a similar way in terms of how you prepare and how you read defenses and those types of things. So I think it's been really good. He's a guy that culture understands kind of how we do things, and I think he's gotten to build a strong relationship with Mike and how Mike wants to operate as well. He's still a young guy, professionally, but has done a really nice job for us.
Hey James, at this point in the season, how much is it about managing bumps and bruises and depth and all of those things, as opposed to, putting your best team out there because you're trying to manage getting through a complete football season here at the end?
Yeah, it's all of that. It's all of that. There's no doubt about it. And the other thing, as you guys know, you see around college football. I'm not saying specifically here, but you see around college football, there's guys that are tapping out and going into the transfer portal. There's guys that are trying to redshirt. We got into a little bit of that earlier in the year. So it's different. It's different than it used to be. But the other end of the spectrum is you got the 4 games now that you didn't used to have, and how to manage that. The challenge is, you want to play those guys early to see what they can do. I wish I had a couple of those games now, from earlier in the year. But again, that's kind of how it all plays out. So just kind of a lot of moving parts, a lot of discussions, a lot of management, a lot of discussion with the coaches, a lot of discussion with the players. And you just have to make sure ultimately you're doing whatever you got to do to win this week, while also being conscientious about the player and his future, and also what's in the best interest of the program too.
James, last year you mentioned that Kalen King was much further along than a lot of freshmen you had encountered before. I'm curious where Abdul Carter is at this point of his freshman season, your ability to rely on him, lean on him with extended snaps. What kind of a rare territory does that place him in your 9 years here?
Yeah, very similar. And I would also say, it's magnified too because of the position he plays. You guys have heard me say before, I mean, the further away you are from the ball, the easier it is sometimes to get on the field because strength and size don't play as much of a role, where he came in and he was already, strong. I remember I had a conversation with him and his dad about how much bigger he needed to get. I think he was 235 at the time. I'm like, you don't have to get any bigger. You're plenty big. He's also a very mature kid, and he's a very disciplined kid, so those things really helped. But obviously there's a big difference between playing linebacker in high school compared to here and what we do and all different formations and shifts and adjustments he has to make. And each week he's getting more and more confident. So with that, he's making less mistakes, but he's also playing faster because he's more confident in what to do and how to do. So yeah, it's different, at that position. I also would say that will linebacker position, in Manny's defense is an important position, so that factors it into it as well. But he's obviously been productive, and he's got acceleration and burst and aggression, like not too many people really on the planet, let alone on our team. He does some really good things. So you guys see it, we see it, and he's growing every single week and getting better.
Has the calculus changed for spending red shirts from the coaching perspective, and also what's the feedback from parents and the players themselves in terms of how that all works?
Say that one more time.
Has the calculus changed, like in terms of how you look at spending a red shirt or burning a red shirt over the last 5-10 years in terms of NIL, transfer portal, those different things? And what's the feedback from parents and the players themselves in terms of wanting to preserve those red shirts?
Yeah, so I think 90% of all these kids we recruit, although I try to talk them out of that and see the big picture, every single one of them thinks that they're going to be 3 years, and part of that plan, and that's just not, that's not the path that most guys take. If it works out, awesome, but it's just not the normal path. So I try to sell them on maximizing this experience here, and when the time comes and it's obvious to everybody, go. So it's interesting. The conversations in the summer are very different than the conversations right after training camp, when maybe it's harder than they thought it was going to be, or they're further down the depth chart than they thought there was going to be. So the conversations when you first get them here are different. Then right after camp, they're different. Then a lot of times still their tune changes halfway through the season because the season hasn't necessarily gone how they thought it would go. The obvious ones are easy. I mean, we all see that, but it's all those guys that are right on the bubble. I think they all want to play in the beginning of the year, and then late in the year they'd like to try to preserve the red shirt if they could. A lot of them say I'd be comfortable just playing on special teams all year long, and then you get to the end of the year and they're like, I wish I didn't, So it's a moving target, and for me to sit here and say that I totally can project what it's going to be like and how it's going to go, there's just too many variables. Injuries factor into it with the guys that are ahead of them. Early success factors into it. Who we play factors into it. There's so many things, so it's hard to predict, and you just got to take each situation kind of case by case, and they're all unique. If that's fair, I hope that answered your question. All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Head coach James Franklin, as you're watching the Unrivaled weekly preview show ahead of number 11 Penn State visiting Rutgers this weekend on Big Ten Network at 3:30 from SHI Stadium. Penn State is 8-2 on the year, 5-2 in the Big Ten, coming off that 30-0 shutout against Maryland. The defense has been suffocating. The offense continues to run the ball well, pass the ball well, and come up with some timely plays. Rutgers, meanwhile, is 4-6 this season, with a 1-6 record in the Big Ten. Did have 460 yards on offense last week, but they lost their third straight game at Michigan State. Brian Tripp live inside the Lasch Building here as we welcome you into the Unrivaled weekly preview show. We just heard from head coach James Franklin ahead of this week's matchup between Penn State and Rutgers. We'll be joined by Hunter Norzad and Jalen Reed here in just a bit, and also take a look at what is a busy week of Penn State sports. But as we look at that Penn State football schedule, as you can see, the Nittany Lions with 2 more games remaining, trying to go 1-0 this week. Penn State taking on Rutgers in Piscataway on Saturday, then one last home game against Michigan State coming up to wrap up the 2022 Penn State football regular season. Well, even though the Nittany Lions are on the road, you can follow the team all week long. Let's take a look at our Penn State game week schedule. You're watching the Unrivaled weekly preview show here, 6:30 on this Wednesday night. Tomorrow night, the Penn State coaches show from the Field, Burger, and Tappan State College. Then a full day of coverage coming up on Saturday, game day from Piscataway, New Jersey. Brian Tripp, as we said here, live joined by Hunter Norzad, Penn State offensive lineman, redshirt senior. Hunter, congrats on a great season so far, and you guys have really been doing great work along the offensive line, even with some changing parts. How would you evaluate the push that you're getting up front right now in the trenches?
I think it's really good. I think that it allows us to have both a great run game and a great pass game. And with the whole moving parts, the coaching staff did a really good job from the very beginning of the season getting everybody ready. So when someone has to step in, they're already prepared, they're ready to play, and I think that has a really big impact on how we found success and the culture in the room.
Yeah, when you look at those moving parts, how important then is it to have a leader like Juice as the center and Sean as the quarterback to help direct guys, get everyone lined up, and make the right reads at the line of scrimmage?
It's really good. I mean, Juice is really good at what he does. Obviously, he's like the captain of the line. He kind of directs everybody, tells us where we're going, what we're doing. And then Sean kind of goes off that if he wants to change anything. So having them is really helpful because it makes it really clear for the other four guys.
There's been a lot of attention because of the success of the freshman running backs, Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen, on the run blocking. But you guys are pass blocking really well throughout the course of the season. What do you like about your ability to run block and pass block right now as an offensive line?
I think the ability to do both just really opens things up for the offense. We can run the ball, we can do play action, we can drop back pass, we can do a lot, and that opens up a lot of possibilities for like the plays we can call and like what we're doing.
And we're seeing this year that T formation has been so good for you guys as well. That's got to be fun because now I don't want to give anything away, but 99% of the time it looks like you're going to run out of that formation. So that's just man against man and try to win a battle there in the trenches.
Yeah, that formation is really just all about toughness and who's going to win. So we like that up front. We've found some success with it, obviously. So it's been really good.
You played at Cornell before coming here to Penn State. What has the Penn State experience been like for you?
It's been really good. The support from the fans and just the environment that they provide during the games is absolutely incredible. And it's really it's awesome. Like the way the fans treat us and the way that the games are and the energy that they bring every day.
What'd you get your degree in at Cornell?
Mechanical engineering.
And what are you emphasizing now here at Penn State?
I'm in the MBA program, so I'm getting my MBA.
That's really cool. Excellent stuff in the classroom and on the football field. You talk about the outstanding crowds at Beaver Stadium. How would you describe that to someone who hasn't experienced it? How would you describe it? Because I'm sure you heard about it coming in. You come here and there's expectations, but how would you describe it to someone who hasn't experienced it?
I'm not really sure. It's kind of like a drug, I guess. Like you go in there and you just feel the energy, you can feel the vibration through your body. When something happens while you're on the field, you hear the stadium just erupt and you kind of get a jump of energy from that. It's really cool. That's probably the best way to describe it. I can't think of anything else.
And the last thing for you, how much fun is it to block for those running backs, especially when you see them taking it to the house 40, 50 yards downfield?
It's real fun. It's real fun, especially when you see them break and you're like, all right, like we're good.
No one's catching those guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Hunter, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Hunter Norzad joining us here on the Unrivaled Weekly Preview Show ahead of Penn State and Rutgers coming up on Saturday at SHI Stadium. The Nittany Lions and Scarlet Knights tangling. It's a 3:30 kickoff, and it is on the Big Ten Network. Penn State with 13 sacks over the last two games and pitched a shutout defensively against Maryland last weekend. And one of those guys that's part of that Penn State defense is sophomore safety Jalen Reed. And Jalen, the defense, how much pride do you take after a game when you see a goose egg up there on the scoreboard for the opponent?
I'm going to take a lot of pride in that because that's one thing we work hard for. We work hard to get that shutout every game. We finally got that one last game, so that was a good thing.
You know what I found awesome to watch, too, on the sideline? Even though it's the end of the game, guys who maybe are in there who aren't regulars, and then you have the regulars on the bench standing up. Like, there's a lot of pride in that because everyone wanted to see that 0 up there on the scoreboard.
Yeah, everybody take pride in it because whoever in the game, we all want defense, and everybody, we all take pride in the same thing. Everybody want to get a goose egg at the end. Everybody just want to get a shutout, so we all go hard at every play.
And there's a lot of depth in that defensive secondary where you're at, but there's a lot of depth across the entire defense. How have you grown as a unit as you've gotten more comfortable throughout the course of the season with Coach Diaz?
We got more tight, and our bond has created us to play faster and play aggressively more throughout the season, and we play more together, and like we play more comfortable on the field together. So with Manny Diaz, Coach Diaz, he does a great job in proving us that we're the best defense on the field. So we go out there with that mentality every game.
And you told me too that with Coach Diaz, you can play with instincts, and that's really important because you can play fast out there in the field. I think we've seen that here throughout the season.
Yeah, Coach Manny, he does a great job in just letting the best players play. The playmakers make plays, and so everybody that goes out there, he puts you in a good position and make a play. So when your opportunity comes, you do a good job.
We're seeing some of your highlights here throughout the course of the season. One of those getting after the Auburn quarterback, and then your roommate, Zaki Wheatley, came up with his first career interception. That had been a fun play for both of you guys.
Yeah, that was a fun play. We definitely roommates, so we talked about that all night.
And you're also from Detroit, Michigan. You told me earlier today that there was never a doubt that you wanted to play anything other than defense. Can you tell the fans why you wanted to play defense so badly?
Well, it's not just defense. I just knew I wanted to tackle somebody because I was so aggressive. Like all my basketball games, I always fouled out and everything. So I knew sometime I was gonna play defense. But my high school coach had finally put me at safety when I was a sophomore in high school. So since then, I just been locked in on there.
What are some of the keys to being a successful safety in Coach Diaz's defense?
You got to know what you're doing out there. You got to play comfortable and be yourself. Really, it's not too much to think about out there when you're playing for Coach Manny. Coach Manny want everybody to play to their instincts and play to their advantage. So he always give this saying, use your fastball. That means use your best thing that you know what you're good at instead of trying to do other things. So for example, my best thing is my playmaking ability. So I try to use that every game. Just go with that.
What has Jair Brown meant to your room specifically and as a leader and an example to you?
Ted, I don't really call him Jair, but
I know.
Ted,
no one does.
Yeah.
That's my bad.
Ted, he does a great job of just leading us. Just leading us vocally and leading us on the field with his play too. As y'all see, every game he makes a big play. You always see his name. I feel like he's a little bit slept on out there in the draft process, but I know as the end of the season goes, his stuff is going to rise up.
What's an NFL team getting in him if they would take him?
NFL team getting Jair Brown is a dog. He's a playmaker. He gonna work hard. He come to work every day. He go to work every day. He work hard. He's just a competitive nature around him.
I'm out of questions for you today. We spent a lot of time together. Jalen, thanks so much. Really appreciate it. Jalen Reed joining us here on the Unrivaled Weekly Preview Show ahead of Penn State and Rutgers coming up on Saturday at 3:30 from Piscataway. Let's take a look at some of the key players for this week's game. And for Penn State, the start of the offensive side of football. We start at running back. Nicholas Singleton with 10.1 yards per carry against Maryland. Third time this year he's gone for 10 or more yards per carry in a game this season. Singleton, 10 rushing touchdowns. That's third among FBS freshmen. He leads all freshmen in the country with a 6.51 yards per carry average. Meanwhile, Katron Allen, 8 rushing touchdowns this season, 73 yards against the Terrapins. Singleton, 801 yards. Allen, 631 yards this season. That Penn State defense has been smothering, as we just talked about with Jalen Reed. 13 sacks in the last 2 games. P.J. Mustipher, 28 tackles this year. He has 11 career tackles for loss. He's been so stout. Penn State's run defense has been really good against good rushing teams, and that defense with 6 or more sacks in back-to-back games for the first time since 2007. Well, it could come down to special teams as well, and that's where Jake Pinniger has excelled the last few games for Penn State. He's actually made 8 in a row dating all the way back to September. Back-to-back weeks with career-long 50-yard field goals for Jake. He's also been good on kickoffs. Meanwhile, Barney Moore's been doing it all year long with an average of more than 44 yards per punt. He's pinned teams inside the 20-yard line 17 times this year. He's also bombed 11 punts of 50 or more yards. And special teams, as we said, important. Go all the way down to the bottom of the list as we take a look at the Rutgers players to watch. I think this is the first time we've put a punter on there this season. Adam Korzak might be their best player, averaging 44 yards per punt this year, 11 more than 50 yards, along of 77. He's an Aussie-style kicker, all Big Ten the last 4 years. Then you see Cruikshank on offense, wide receiver, and on special teams, and a couple of really good defensive players for the Scarlet Knights as well. So that's our Rutgers players to watch ahead of this week's matchup between Penn State and Rutgers coming up from Piscataway on Saturday at 3:30. Let's take a look now at those DeWalt benches on the sidelines at Beaver Stadium. When our players are on the sideline, they're sitting on our DeWalt benches. Thank you, DeWalt, for being the proud bench partner of Penn State Athletics and for keeping players game ready while on the sideline. From the sidelines here at Beaver Stadium to the sidelines and the field in the National Football League, let's take a look at the best plays this week for Penn Staters in the NFL. This weekend in the NFL, Bucs wide receiver Chris Godwin had 6 catches for 71 yards and this 4-yard touchdown reception, his first of the year. He now has 48 catches this year for Tampa Bay. A busy day for Giants running back Saquon Barkley with 35 carries and 152 yards against the Texans. The Giants are now 7-2 as Barkley also tacked on this 2-yard touchdown. Eagles running back Miles Sanders grinded out 54 yards on 12 carries. Sanders ranks top 10 in the NFL in attempts, yards, and touchdowns. Still got those Eagles in there, even though they lost their first game of the season on Monday night. As we take a look at the MI Windows and Doors Penn State Student Athletes of the Week from the Penn State field hockey team, which is off to the national semifinals. Goaltender Bree Baracco with a pair of shutouts in the NCAA tournament, and Jalen Pickett from the Penn State men's basketball team, which is off to a 3-0 start this season. Great work by both those student athletes and all of our Penn State teams as we take a look at this week's Penn State teams in the rankings. And we start at number 1 with who else than the defending national champions, the Penn State wrestling team. Field hockey ranked number 6, as is the men's ice hockey team, climbing all the way up, back-to-back upsets of number 1 back-to-back weeks. Women's hockey, great on the ice this year, ranked 11th. Football's up to 11 in the polls as well. Women's volleyball, great couple of weeks for Katie Schumacher-Cauley and her team. They have big matches at home this weekend. Women's soccer and men's fencing, all in the top 25. So what a great week of Penn State sports we have, obviously, with all those top 25 teams, not just with the Penn State football team ranked 11th and going on the road to take on Rutgers. A lot of action here at home and elsewhere. Destiny Sanchez, a part of our student talent team, is with us. And Destiny, we have to start with the team that's in the national semifinals, the Penn State field hockey team, with a great matchup coming up on Friday.
Absolutely. Coach Shar has led this team to some great heights. She's Big Ten Coach of the Year. This program has been consistent throughout all the years and in a very competitive conference as well. The first 2 rounds of the NCAAs, first was against Louisville and shutout, 5-0, 2 goals apiece by Anna Simon and Sophia Gladio. 2 days later, another shutout defeating Albany in Ann Arbor, 1-0. Bree Baracco earned her second shutout of the weekend. Mackenzie Alessi notched the game's lone goal late in the game. The team headed to Storrs, Connecticut today to take on North Carolina Friday at 12 p.m. And a quick preview of the matchup against UNC. UNC is number 1, undefeated, 19-0. They're known for their field hockey program. Penn State sits at 17-3. It's definitely going to be a tough competition, but I really do believe that Penn State has what it takes to bring a very tough competition against UNC. On the other side of the bracket, we've got more Big Ten teams in the Final Four, Northwestern and Maryland. It's, like I said, this conference in the Big Ten, it's competitive. And to see 3 teams in the Big Ten, it's pretty cool. And the winner will face Northwestern or Maryland. This is Penn State's 7th NCAA appearance in the last decade. This is Coach Shar's 30th appearance in her 36 years of coaching. Overall, just a great, exciting weekend for field hockey.
No doubt about that. They have a great leader in head coach Shar Curtis, the Penn State field hockey team. As you said, headed to Storrs earlier today, and right before they left, out in the snow flurries, I had a chance to catch up, Destiny, with their head coach. Let's check it out. The Penn State field hockey team is off to Storrs, Connecticut for the national semifinals. Brian Tripp joined by head coach Shar Curtis. And Shar, you've had a lot of success here and a lot of great teams, but the first semifinal since 2007. What makes this team special?
You know, I just think their cohesiveness and just their unity on and off the field, they've worked hard from day one, and I think that you know, this is something that we felt was achievable, and I think once we got into the Big Ten play and were successful, I thought that this is something we really focus more and more on every week.
You and I were just joking that when you're practicing when it's snowing, that means you're deep late into the postseason. So that's a good thing. What do you try to do this week to get ready?
Yeah, we just really want to keep them loose. We want to have them watch a lot of films. You know, we haven't seen Carolina, so we just really want them to understand the pressing piece, the outletting piece, and what's available on corners, how we have to defend corners, and just keep them keep practices short, keep it intense, and get ready to go later today.
What makes unbeaten and number 1 North Carolina a challenging matchup?
Yeah, that's a great question. They have Erin Matson, who's probably one of the best players in the country. They have a lot of players that do compete with the national team program. But I really like the way our conference plays. It's a very contrasting style between the ACC and the Big Ten. So I think the way we've beaten each other up throughout the Big Ten conference play has really been to our benefit.
That said, outside of North Carolina, the other 3 teams are Big Ten teams. What does it say about the strength of your league?
Yeah, we're so proud about all the teams in our conference. Last year we had 6 teams make the tournament, it's 5 this year. So I think it just is a reflection of how hard these teams play. I think the coaches in the Big Ten are just very competitive. At the same time, I think they do a great job of educating the players and developing their field hockey IQ.
What also has the support of the Penn State fan base meant, the Penn State community and all the other athletic teams on campus meant here over the last few weeks?
Oh, it's been outstanding. It's been awesome. The women's coaches group, we have a little text group going on, and just seeing the success of all the teams competing this fall, it's just something that, you just take so much pride in. And our fan base is ready to go to stores. We've got Sharon Herlocker, Shel Tambroni on top of things to get the alumni together, and they're excited to come and cheer us on in the national championship environment.
Shar, good luck. Bring home a championship. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.
And he gave us a lot of great information there. Set that up beautifully, as we heard from head coach Charmarette Curtis and the Penn State field hockey team in the NCAA semifinals. Still a ways to go for the Penn State women's soccer team, but they're off to a great start in the NCAA tournament too.
Yeah, Penn State welcomes West Virginia for the second round matchup. Back to the first round, though, Penn State won against Quinnipiac 4-1 with a season high of 25 shots. Penn State defense limited Quinnipiac to just 4 shots, which is the least Penn State has allowed all year. Now, Penn State faces a familiar opponent in number 7, West Virginia, this Friday, November 18th at 4:30. On the other side of the bracket, Xavier versus Virginia at 2 p.m. It's great to see all these Penn State teams in the playoffs, really far in the Final Four almost. So it's pretty great to see women's soccer and field hockey going really far this year.
No doubt about that. The Penn State men's soccer team had a good season as well. Women's volleyball starting to head towards the postseason. GoPSUSports.com is the place to go, as well as the social media channels, to learn more about all of these great Penn State teams. Destiny, great stuff. I know you've enjoyed watching field hockey as a field hockey player yourself all year long. Yes. So Destiny Sanchez with us here, our GoPSUSports.com talent team. And now let's take a look at our Penn State. As we said, it's a big weekend ahead for Penn State teams. Field hockey, the NCAA semifinals coming up Friday at noon. Penn State against number 1 North Carolina in Storrs, Connecticut. As Destiny said, the first NCAA semifinal. For all that success, it shows you how hard it is to win the first semifinal since 2007. The women's soccer team, 4:30 on Friday in the NCAA tournament against West Virginia. And then the third round competition with a win would be at 5 o'clock on Sunday. So that is at home. Fans, you can come out to Jeffrey Field to watch the Penn State women's soccer team. Women's volleyball, Big Ten home matches. Friday against number 9 Minnesota, 8:30 is the Wear White match. Fans, come on out. Wear White match on Friday. Saturday against number 3 Wisconsin at 8 o'clock is the Silent Set, which is always a great event every year. And then Penn State men's hockey ranked 6th, taking on Michigan State ranked 17th. Michigan State enters 1 point up on Penn State for first place in the Big Ten standings. That's at 7 o'clock on Friday and 7:30 on Saturday at Pagula Ice Arena. That great action there on the ice for the Penn State men's hockey team as well. So many events, we couldn't even fit them all on this schedule. Let's take a look at what you can find on Big Ten Plus. Women's basketball, as we said, you can't fit everything on that schedule. Against Bryant, great start for Carolyn Keeger's team. Off to a 3-0 start this year. Beat Youngstown State last night. 7 o'clock on Friday, as we said, the men's hockey team against Michigan State. Those games are airing on Big Ten Plus. Then women's basketball back in action at the Jordan Center on Monday at 7 p.m. Also, those women's volleyball matches will air on the Big Ten Network. Fans, if you're coming to the games or traveling to Rutgers this weekend, make sure you show your Penn State pride and practice Happy Valley hospitality. Be respectful, be responsible, be great fans, and be gracious hosts. Remember, after the game, we'll have immediate reaction from head coach James Franklin and hopefully a couple of Nittany Lions with the Unrivaled post-game show live from Rutgers. Number 11 Penn State taking on Rutgers, and that's coming up on Saturday, immediately following the game on many of these same outlets where you're joining us tonight here for the Unrivaled Weekly Preview Show. Great stuff again this week. Really appreciate Jalen Reed and Hunter Norzad for stopping by. We heard Coach Franklin's insights to kick off the program, and Destiny had all of that great information about all of our Penn State sports teams right now. That they're really just dominating. They're dominating right now As always, throughout the course of the show, we appreciate those of you who have left comments letting us know where you're watching from tonight. Continue to leave those comments. If you have questions, feel free to ask questions in there. We'd love to hear from you. Great work by Ross Woomer again producing our show tonight. I'm Brian Tripp saying so long from the Lasch Building ahead of Penn State and Rutgers. It's coming up 3:30 on Saturday. You can watch that game on Big Ten Network as well. The Nittany Lions try to go 1-0 this week and improve to 9-2 here on this season. Thanks again for tuning in to the Unrivaled Weekly Preview Show. We'll talk to you Saturday after the game from Piscataway, New Jersey.